Some say Chinese is one of the most difficult languages in the world, and learning it is almost impossible.
So learning Chinese, the most difficult thing.
非常非常非常非常非常难
So I'm sort of tone deaf. I can't really hear them.
I think the cultural mindset is the biggest complication for
The
us.
grammar.
知吃思吃都还难
It's just complicated. So much.
Only because you're not learning it in the right way. Why not try Takeaway Chinese, where you can take some Chinese away and experience progress day by day. Takeaway Chinese, we will promise you a difference.
你好，欢迎收听随行汉语 Welcome to Takeaway Chinese. I'm your host Niu Honglin, joined by a handsome, knowledgeable, great Australian young man who's also a very talented Chinese learner, Mr. Carl Benjaminson. Hi, Carl.
It's lovely to be here as always.
It's great to have you here. And since you've been in China for a while, I think your knowledge about Chinese culture, about Chinese mentality, Chinese people's way of thinking has been enriched in an exponential way. And now I fear when you ask me questions, because sometimes you ask the questions that I can answer, but I do have a standard answer for all of your questions. That is, sometimes language is the thing that you just gotta remember. There's no explanations for each and every question.
Exactly. And my very first Chinese class was at a Kongzi Suiyuan, it was at a Confucius Institute, and we had a very bright student, sort of one who writes everything down in detail. And he always used to ask why. Why do we use that piece of grammar? Why do we use that counting word? And eventually the teacher, sort of exasperated, had to explain, just because it's been the language has been developing for 4,000 years.
Yeah.
Just because, that's why.
I like the answer, just because. I'm gonna make it my new, model or new answer for a lot of things. And I said this because in today's episode, we are going to touch upon a very complicated issue, that is the measure word issue. We all know Chinese measure words are super hard, super complicated, but also really fun if you started to grasp the essence of it. We'll explain later. And for our dear listeners, if you're interested in Chinese culture and you want to get a grips with the Chinese language, then this is the show for you. Stick with us for 30 minutes a day and you soon see the rewards. And for more fun Chinese learning, follow our Facebook page, CRI Learn Chinese, a page that you can also check us out there by videos and live streaming. But now, let's provide you with some free Chinese for takeaway.
Chinese 101, a promise beyond the basics.
这两条裙子哪个更好看？
都好看，
那我应该买哪一件呢？
你定吧。
So, just before we started the show, we were having a debate between the two of us as to whether this conversation, which we're guessing is between a man and his girlfriend, whether the man is being very clever or being very stupid in his response to his girlfriend's questions.
It depends on what kind of girlfriend he has and also what kind of situation they are actually in. But let's break them down sentence by sentence, learn the language first, and then maybe we'll also give you a EQ lesson, if we may.
Give you some dating advice.
Yeah, some advice. Okay, so 这两条裙子哪个更好看？
These two dresses, which one looks better?
So, like we promised, there is a measure word here that is 条，一条裙子。
So, 条 is a measure word, in this case for dresses, but it is also used for a whole bunch of other things. So it's for long things like noodles or paper, fish, because it's for long, flexible things.
Yes. So let's step back a little bit and talk a little about measure word first. Because unlike English and most European languages, Chinese does not distinguish between singular and plural. We don't really have that. So nouns are simply abstract in number. For example, we say 一本书, that is one book. And if we say 两本书或者三本书, that's 2 books or 3 books, but we don't really say 两本书门, even though 门 is kind of like the Chinese version of S there. It's saying it's more than one, but we don't say that in daily language. If it's 2 books, it's simply 两本书. So the only difference between 一本书 and 两本书 is the actual number in front of the measure word.
And in this case, the measure word being ben, which is the measure word for things like books.
Yes, and that is why measure word is very important, because instead of giving a number to the actual noun, we are actually giving a number to the measure word, meaning that, let's say, it's kind of like 2 glasses of milk.
2杯
牛奶. Yes, so it's the similar logic, but it's kind of different in Chinese and in English. And the only thing you can remember is, first of all, you don't really need a men after the noun, even if the noun is sometimes plural. And the second thing is you need a measure word in most cases.
Now, there are a huge number of measure words. So just some examples here. There's 只 for animals.
只, yes.
There's 头, which is for
bigger animals.
Bigger animals, like farm animals, but not all farm animals, just some of them. We've covered ben for books, he for boxes, bao for bags.
Yeah, that's just a lot of measure words you're dropping there, justifying my previous statement that you know too much now. But for our dear listeners out there, actually, you do really need to pick them up one after one. Just remember the very basic ones. You forgot one really basic one, that is 个.
Well, this is the one I was going to leave till last. So the easiest one is 个. Now, it's kind of a get-out-of-jail-free card. If you're not quite sure what the actual measure word is, if you use 个, it will cover you in most circumstances. The other thing to remember is if you use 个, the Chinese person you're talking to will usually very politely correct you and give you a hint to what the measure word is, in my experience.
Exactly. So like we said, even though the measure word is a complicated issue in learning Chinese, it is also very helpful once you started to learn it. And here, 条, like we said, 条 in itself means stripe. Actually, we say 条纹, it's stripe. So, like Carl said, it refers to the long things. 一条鱼, one long fish. 一条裤子, a pair of trousers, because we don't actually think about the pair thing. We think, trousers are long. And same logic, 一条裙子. So that's 条. Maybe you can remember this one for this time. And here, 这两条裙子, these 2 dresses, 哪个更好看? Which one is prettier? Which one looks better? Oh, one thing you guys need to know is that 裙子, even though we've translated into dresses, actually dress and skirts are both 裙子 in Chinese. See?
Okay, that's
easy.
No? Very easy.
Yes. So, 哪个更好看? Which one is better? And here, 更, we've come across 更 for so many times. It simply means more of something, greater of something.
So you can use it in this case as a comparison marker. So you're saying, is which of these 2 things is more good?
Yeah, it's more good. For example, if I say 这两个银行哪个更近?
So out of these 2 banks, which one is the closer?
Or I can also say 这个银行比那个银行近.
So this bank is closer than that bank.
Exactly. So the structure here would be 更 plus the adjective, meaning more something, or A 比 B, 更 plus the adjective. So A is more of something than B. Easy and very clear. And the answer here is 都好看.
Both are good.
So 都 we know is both, and also sometimes all. It depends.
So in this case, by combining it with 好看, so it looks good.
Looks
and
good.
They're all good. They're all fine.
They're all fine. And then Parday said, 那我应该买哪一件呢?
Then which one should I buy?
应该买哪一件呢? 应该 would be should. 那 then 我 I 买哪一件 buy which one? 呢 suggesting it's a question. And the answer here is 你定吧.
You decide it. So it's in this case, a very dismissive or very cautious boyfriend not wanting to get themselves into trouble by giving a clear answer.
Yeah, so 定 is short for 决定, which means decide. So 你定吧 would be you decide. And 吧, it's interesting because it's like you do something. You can decide without giving a preference or giving even a hint of which one I like more. Interesting boyfriend. After all the discussion about the measure word, about the structures, I think we can try to practice the conversation a little bit.
Let's give it a go.
I'll be the girl who's asking for suggestions. 这两条裙子哪个更好看？
都好看。
那我应该买哪一件呢？
你定吧。
See, I don't like that answer. I would assume that you didn't give me an explanation or didn't give me an advice because you don't like any of the dresses I picked out.
Whereas I would assume the best way of not getting into trouble and choosing the wrong one is to say, oh, no, I can't decide. It's all you. You can choose.
You just don't want to take any responsibility, huh?
Absolutely.
All right, so you are listening to Takeaway Chinese with myself, Niu Hongli, and Carl. We would love to hear from you. Send us your thoughts via email to learnchinese@cri.com.cn. Coming up next, we'll introduce you different ways of saying whatever you want in Chinese. Don't go away, so you will take some Chinese away.
Language tips. All you need to learn about Chinese culture and have fun.
Welcome back to Takeaway Chinese. I'm Niu Honglin, joined by Carl. So we've decided that Carl is the kind of guy that do not really want to make a choice because he's kind of afraid that that choice will come back and bite him.
I think it's fair to say that when it comes to going shopping with my girlfriend, I'm really not in a good position to make any decisions.
That's actually very smart. But do you want to know how to say those things? How to say your choice? You can decide. It's up to you. I don't really have an opinion. All those things, there are so many ways to say those things in Chinese, actually. I think you need all of them because you apparently will use a lot of them.
Yes, and they all have slightly different meanings.
You got to know the nuances. For example, here, our characters in the conversation said 你定吧. So 你定吧 is very direct, is you decide without any tone of complaining or I don't have an opinion. It's more like a very neutral way of saying you can decide. I am okay with everything. So this is really safe. And another one is not that safe. That is 无所谓.
The 无所谓, so it's like not. So 无 is not. 所 is like actually.
Actually, I feel like 无所谓 is the kind of word that you don't want to break down by each characters because it's a set phrase and it basically means it's not that important to me. Not that the thing itself is not important. It's more like it's not important to me or I can go either way. But some people would understand it in a different way. For example, if I say, which one do you like more? For example, if I am your girlfriend and I picked out 2 dresses so that I can go out on a date with you. And if you say, 无所谓, it's like it's not important to me, then I'm going to be angry. So 无所谓, not really important, but that is the word that you need to be a little bit careful about.
But it's just to stress, it's about important to the person who's saying it. So it's maybe, 无所谓. It's not important what dress you choose because I'm not the one wearing it.
Yes, that can be what you're suggesting, but this word suggests that it's not that important to me. So 无所谓. And another one would be another 2 actually I'd like to put together are 没关系 and 不要紧 because I would assume 没关系 comes out a lot because 没关系 is the word you hear when people say I'm sorry.
Yeah, and like for me when I've heard it used, it kind of means like no problem. Like there's no issue with the situation that's going on.
Yes. So we know 关系 is relationship in itself, but 关系 also means that something that matters. 没关系 would be it does not matter that much. So if you say 对不起 a really good response would be 没关系, it's okay. And 不要紧 carries the same function. If you say 对不起撞到你了, sorry, I hit you or I bump on you, you can actually say 不要紧, it's okay. 要紧 would also be important, but important in a kind of bad way. For example, if you hurt yourself, got a paper cut, I might ask you 要不要紧? So 要不要紧 would be, is it serious? Is your cut hurting you a lot? So if you say 不要紧, it's not very serious, it's okay.
Okay.
So
that's a very casual one to use.
Yes. But 不要紧, since we say it's not very serious, it cannot really be an answer to which one do you like. If I ask you, 你喜欢哪个? You can't really say 不要紧, because 不要紧 it's not serious. It's just not the right answer. So 不要紧 and 没关系 cannot answer the questions, but they are also like not very serious. It's okay, no problem. And we have some other expressions here that is also I feel like very interesting, because we've established that 你定吧 is the neutral one, and here is a little bit carries a little bit feeling of complaining, and that is 爱咋咋地.
See, I had not heard of this one, and it seems like a really strange expression. Because again, as is my habit when I read Chinese, I've always tempted to break it down into the words. And if you break it down, it's love, bite, earth, which clearly does not make any sense.
Okay, so I is, in this phrase, prefer to do something. So I prefer to do something would be 我爱做什么. For example, if I say 我爱教中文, that would be I like to, I love to teach Chinese. So 咋 is, I feel like it's kind of like a dialect, or at least an accent. You say this to people from the southern part of China, they might not completely understand you. But 爱咋咋地 actually means you can do whatever you want, I don't care. And the I don't care carries a little bit of negativity in it.
So it's not, do whatever you want, I don't care. It's, do whatever you want, I don't care.
Exactly, thank you. That's great. So, for example, I can say 他总是自以为是，他爱咋咋地吧. So that's kind of like he always think that he's right, and I don't care anymore. So it's like, I don't care anymore.
All right, so he's arrogant and I don't care what he thinks.
Yes. So 爱咋咋地. It's kind of like he can choose to do whatever he wants, and I don't care anymore.
Now, there's a saying that's sounds very similar to that, which is 随便.
随便.
So does that carry a similar meaning? It's like, do as you please, do whatever you want.
Yes, 随便 would be do whatever you want, but I would assume 随便 is also kind of neutral. So if you say 随便, it's like, okay, do you prefer to take the elevator or take the stairs? I can say, 随便.
Okay, so because I have heard this used in both positive and negative contexts. I've heard teachers yell it at students, like, you think you can rock up whenever you like to class? But also people saying, no, you can choose whatever you want off the menu.
Yes, so I think 随便 would be literally whatever. You can use whatever in a positive way, in a neutral way, and in a negative way. And 随便 is also that kind of word. 随 is like along, go along, and 便 is whichever one that is convenient, that is easier. So it's like go along with the one that you like, 随便, or 随你便. Do whatever is convenient for you. So yes, you're completely right. It can be used in different scenarios. So we've established that there are different scenarios where you use different of these phrases to show that you don't really have an opinion, but you can use them. You need to use them carefully because some of them carries a little bit of complaining kind of tone. Some of them can be interpreted as a little bit negative. So you really need to grasp all of this. But one thing for sure is if you're using a very nice and gentle tone, it will help. And also, 无所谓 or 随便 is somehow neutral there.
Okay.
Yes, and I have a question for you because we joke about the kind of people that they say 随便 a lot. They're the 随便 kind of people. They say, whatever, I can go with either this or that. I don't really have an opinion. But once you started to actually provide them with a choice, they started to say no. It's the kind of scenario that I ask you, what do you want to eat? And you say, 随便我都可以 I can go along with anything. And then I say 火锅怎么样 What about hot pot?
No, not so much.
那烧烤呢 Barbecue?
Yeah, maybe not today.
What about Chinese food that the kind of dishes that you can pick out?
See, look, I have to stop you there. I find this really frustrating because I will eat pretty much anything, and I have had this experience. One of my favorite restaurants is a Nanjing restaurant, and it's got beautiful things. It's got pig's feet. It's got spicy duck's blood. It's got all these. Yeah, sure. It's delicious, but often you'll go there with someone and say, is there anything that you'd like in particular? No, everything's fine. So would you like pig's feet? No. Would you like duck's blood? No. Would you like chicken livers? No.
Okay, so this is universal, right? And you find this kind of people everywhere.
Absolutely.
And that is why in Chinese we sometimes say 随便 is the worst thing you can respond, because 随便 does not mean that you don't have an opinion. It actually means you do not want to spend the time and energy to think about what you want and what you don't want. You just want people to, serve you like a princess.
So although it is a very useful phrase to roll out. So, I mean, this boyfriend in our example conversation could say something like, 我穿衣服很随便. Like, I don't really mind the clothes that I wear. So I can't really answer your question. Don't be that guy.
But it is possible that in another scenario, people that are saying 随便, they're saying 随便 not because they don't have an opinion. It's more like because they are suffering from 选择恐惧症. 选择恐惧症 is decidophobia. So 选择 is your choice, or the 选择 can also be a verb meaning choose, and 恐惧 is scared of something. 恐惧.
Like I'm terrified of choice.
Terrified of choice. So 选择恐惧症, it is, if you take a look at the characters, you would realize it looks kind of like a kind of disease, and 症 is actually a disease. But 选择恐惧症 is actually what people use to address themselves as, I cannot make a choice. I have decidophobia.
That is a very, very useful phrase to learn.
So if you don't want to appear impolite, not want others to think that you are simply not giving them an answer because you don't care, you can actually tell them, 我有选择恐惧. I cannot choose. I am afraid. I'm terrified of choosing. And then they'll cut you a slack. 您正在收听的是随行汉语 You're listening to Takeaway Chinese with myself, Niu Hongli, and Carl. At the end of today's show, we'll be listening to a song called 无所谓 by Yang Kun. Yang Kun is a Chinese singer, and he is famous for his husky kind of voice. It's a signature voice. But this song 无所谓 is very interesting because 无所谓, like we said, means whatever. His song 无所谓 was a smash hit on the Chinese pop market in 2002 with sales of 400,000 copies. With this album, his music career took off, and his distinctive, mature voice has since touched millions of music lovers in China.
Let's give it a listen.
才不说的那么绝对是与非，才不说我不后悔，破碎就破碎，要什么完美？放过了自己，我才能高飞，无所谓。无所谓，原谅这
That brings us to the end of today's Takeaway Chinese.